Hi guys, welcome back to NGN. I'm Julian, I'm here with Tres, aka Stunner, and we're going to tell you a little bit about the history of Counterstrike. So CS Global Offensive is a huge game, right? It's got hundreds of thousands of active users on Steam all the time. It's got tournaments with prize pools that are cracking the $1 million mark. And yet it started with such humble beginnings.
Counterstrike actually started in the year of 1999, I guess you could say, is a fabled tale. It started as a mod of the Half-Life engine by, I think it's Mr. Min Lee.
Yeah. Min Lee, he was a college student in Canada, decided he wanted to make a more realistic shooter than, the Quakes and the Dooms of the time. So he based his version of the game off of a game with zombie head crabs because he was going for realism. But this is a game that quickly found a community that was very intense and it thrived because of that. In fact, all the maps in the original Counter-Strike were all community made. Dust, for example, I think everybody who's ever played Counter-Strike knows Dust with their eyes closed, was made by a 16-year-old British contributor. So it began there, eventually was picked up by Valve. They released the first version, 1.0, in 2000, and then a couple versions later, and finally in 2003 we got 1.6.
I don't think I'll be the first to say it nor the last, but Counter-Strike 1.6 was God's game. What it actually presented was a functioning game type that had yet to have been created, and it was able to captivate an audience that just really wanted to play that rather than the jumping around, the bunny hopping around with rail guns and things like that. It really did target a certain audience. And albeit it was a team-based objective game, so that already is something you could do with your friends, or like you could get super competitive and super serious with it. And eventually you would see the leagues come about and things would kind of evolve into what we have today.
2004, Valve decided they were going to add a few updates, particularly graphically, with their Source engine. So Counterstrike Source came out, but it also had a couple other changes, and the community wasn't as receptive to it as 1.6.
In my opinion, Counterstrike Source came out, and it was almost as if these people had been playing 1.6 for so long, and this is what they grew accustomed to. It was a brand new game. It didn't have the same feel as 1.6 did, and it really catered to a different audience.
So Source kind of flew under the radar for a long time. People stayed on 1.6, up until like 2010, people were still actively playing this older, not very pretty game, but it was still just so much fun and so engrossing. There was still such a big community. And then in 2012, Counterstrike Global Offensive was launched.
When Counterstrike Global Offensive was launched, the actual game wasn't nearly what product we have in front of us today. It was actually really underdeveloped, and it really was not anywhere near being ready to be a competitive title. As it grew, or the fan base grew, you actually could see the communities of 1.6 and Source kind of coming together and say, hey, this is a game that we can both play together. This is one we kind of like agree, like, okay, this is going to be the one that we're going to build the future of Counter-Strike around. Valve kept at it and kept updating it and kept making necessary changes until we have the product that we see now.
The Dust map gets an update. It's a lot of things people know and love come into the new one, graphical updates, and generally that's just been a recipe for success. Hundreds of thousands of players, $1 million prize pool, and it all started with one college student making a mod because he thought there were no realistic shooters.
The moral of the story here is don't let your dreams be dreams. If you want to go make something cool, you better make something cool.
Well, Tres, thank you so much for telling us a little bit about the history of CSGO. Thank you guys for tuning into NGN.